Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. A systematic approach to zero trust. Okay, so we've already finished identifying all the capabilities we require to drive towards that zero trust outcome. And now that we have that, we can align that with existing investments. We can look for gaps and then go to market to start addressing them. And hopefully at some point get to where we're more comfortable to say that we're at zero trust. And again, remember, zero trust doesn't actually mean you trust anything at any point in time for the entire period of time. But I've got a lot of comments back. Folks love the walkthrough, the agnostic approach to this, but they've also asked, can you align this to Cisco security technologies as well? Just so they have a perspective of how Cisco could address each one of these capabilities that we've identified. And so this is really around Cisco product alignment to the capabilities. And so, some of this will be repetitive as we go through each use case, but this is the work from home use case. And from here, what we can see is, there's a big chunk that Cisco can do here. The red component that I've highlighted here, patching, well, Cisco doesn't do that. So you're going to use, whatever you have with Microsoft, third-party patching technologies that you might have to help satisfy that need. IPS is something we don't offer on the endpoint. There's other mechanisms to drive that outcome in other areas in the environment, but not on the endpoint itself. And so everything else, though, from a prevention and detection response perspective, Cisco supports, right? And that's through Cisco Secure Endpoint, or formerly Endpoint AMP, as well as AnyConnect with the ICE posture module around USB blocking, and the network visibility module around IPFix. So that's fairly well covered. Like I said, there might be 2 decisions to be made here. And so you might move this to the network. That might satisfy the need for now. And patching, you leverage an existing capability. Now, when we start getting into DNS, web proxy, DLP, TLS decryption, advanced malware inspection, and a lot of the analysis components that tie into that, Cisco Umbrella certainly can service that need. And so, and there's some, stay tuned, because there's a lot of development around that area with new features and capabilities coming to further enhance what can be offered driven from the cloud itself. When we get into MFA, endpoint posture, geo-control, denied authentication, device insight, now we're at Cisco Secure Access, and that's driven by Duo. And so all of those capabilities can certainly be satisfied by that component itself. When we look at a lot of the reputation filtering and business email compromise, all around that email services piece, we look at Cisco Secure Mail. So formerly, email security appliance, or cloud email security, going even further back, the iron ports themselves. And that product certainly has evolved, and there's a lot of capabilities there as well, more than what's being called out here per se, at least when you start getting into the weeds. Then you get into the service itself. And so the one thing I didn't call out is, on the services side, you have similar capabilities that could be enabled on that endpoint, right? Even though it's a server, that you would do based on a traditional user's workstation. So like things like endpoint detection response, advanced malware, you might be in audit mode versus protect mode, depending on the sensitivity of the asset. But that would be certainly something that you would leverage depending on the service that you're connecting to. So don't think that I'm only talking about secure workload here. You certainly want to think about endpoint detection response and a lot of those other capabilities that we would see on a traditional workstation. So around application segmentation or micro-segmentation, blocking communications and IOCs, application visibility, forensics, all of those pieces can come with Cisco Secure Workload. And so that's, formerly most people would know it as tetration. So almost a cloud-delivered firewall capability for all your endpoints when it comes to, containers, VMs, Windows, Linux, etc. So that's fairly rounded out, right? You can see a lot of these capabilities will help drive that outcome. You get a supported model, you get some integration. There's some really cool stuff that you get on top of, each one of these point product type views of how Cisco could address it. When we look from work from home, I'm not going to go through each capability, so I'll just jump to the new ones that were just determined going through this workflow. And that is really around the Nextgen Firewall capability. And so, you've got DDoS and TLS decryption, L7, firewall, IPS, advanced malware, behavioral-based policy. A lot of those capabilities would be driven by firepower threat defense, so Cisco Secure Firewall. But also you could, depending on the platform, integrate Cisco's DDoS capabilities, as well as the WAF capabilities could be added to that solution stack. So all of those are certainly available there. Again, the other elements, there's no difference here. They're covered. So again, we're talking about two outliers right now. When you're driving towards zero trust. And the other thing to recall is I said it's not a platform, it's not a product, right? It's a collection of capabilities and some things that are going to fall outside of this, right? I would assume most organizations are going to want a SIM to help drive some event-based activities, right? Maybe even a dedicated SOAR for certain activities. So it's not just what's here. Again, there's other use cases that would be that you're going to build out that are going to add additional capabilities. IoT is a good example of that. And Cisco certainly has some capabilities on that IoT side as well. And maybe that's a future use case that I can drive and show some of the similar outcomes as this. SaaS-based services, so nothing really new here except when we get into some of the sanction-based controls and shadow IT and community trust ratings. And so Cisco Umbrella would certainly satisfy most of those requirements. You may need a more of a like cloud access security broker type function. And that's certainly where you can start looking at, the cloud lock component that Cisco provides as well. But certainly the need there would be covered under both Umbrella and or cloud lock. So that's that use case. And then the final use case is we've got that campus user, again, hitting that email service. Everything here is already been covered fully, but I think I missed this on the last one, and it's because I didn't update the slide, is when you get into flow analytics, that's going to be Cisco Secure and Network Analytics. So you'll have Cisco Firepower as an example with maybe integrated Cisco DDoS, with Cisco Secure Network Analytics to do that behavioral stuff, as well as the Cisco WAF component, kind of to tie that all in. But again, fully covered there. The other big piece here is that we're authenticating, authorizing, doing posture profiling. You're going to have dynamic-based controls here. I need to tighten this up a little bit because DNS fell in here and it should be over here, but you get the idea. Right, this is again Cisco ISE that's going to provide that functionality. So we've got all the capabilities. There's again two outliers at least called out in this specific use case. But when we start wrapping it up and we start looking at threat intelligence, well, we've got Talos, but also third-party feeds, right? Depending on the technologies you're going to ingest. For example, Firepower will take in Threat Intelligence Director, where you can send a Stix and Taxi information to that platform and ingest that information and make decisions on mitigating risk. Then we get into Cisco SecureX and Cisco Threat Response. So you get threat hunting capabilities and IR capabilities that will allow you to add all of those technologies that I mentioned for at least at some point. Most of them are there, but things that might be an outlier is Identity Services Engine, at least today is not. But certainly that's the drive and the goal. And then you've got orchestration, automation, and playbooks with the SecureX platform itself. And so you can, again, integrate those Cisco modules in either one of these capabilities. What's really cool is that if you haven't went down that SOAR path or XDR path yet, this is free. This is part of any investment that you've made in Cisco security technologies. So you get to leverage these capabilities, see if they fit. And in a lot of cases, I've seen customers leverage this and not find any gaps for their use cases. But the thing is that now you have that orchestration, automation, and playbook type activity where you're integrating not only the Cisco modules, but also allowed or able to integrate third-party capabilities as well. And so that's tying in and helping drive, again, that zero trust methodology around, you've got a bunch of capabilities that are going to be required to satisfy that zero trust model. But now you've got the ability to integrate this because it's all API based. And so that's it. That's a breakdown of Cisco Secure product aligned to that zero trust capability mapping that we did based on those certain use cases.